Man, things were going so well until, that. How's it going, everybody? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Figured I'd start this episode off by saying it's time to say goodbye to the studio. That's right, this is my last week of school before summer, and I will not be staying in this dorm, or any dorm, next semester. I'll be in an apartment, so I'll have a completely different studio over the summer, and a completely different area next fall. So as much as I've enjoyed having basically all of my personal belongings in the background of each episode, this is the last we will see of this particular scenery. But anyway, that's not really important. Talladega was this last weekend. And a good sports journalist would not say what I'm about to say, but I don't consider myself a sports journalist, so I'm going to say it anyways. I didn't actually watch the race on Sunday. Not because I didn't want to, not because I had better things to do, but I did. So yeah, this last weekend I was actually out of town with a friend of mine filming the 24 Hours of Lemons races, which there's a little clip of it right there, but you can links in the description. It's recommended. I've uploaded one video about that already. You can check that out. It was fun. But as a result, since we were wrapping up Sunday afternoon, I didn't get to watch any of the race. I was able to keep up with the leaderboard here and there. I have race view, so I was able to check in a couple different times periodically. I knew when the big one happened. I knew pretty quickly, oh, there was a big wreck apparently, checking my phone. I was like, okay. Everyone who was just in 5th place is now in 30th. Something must have happened. There's a red flag out now. Wow, okay. And 20 minutes later I check in, oh, there's still a red flag. So that must have been one heck of a wreck. Now, obviously, I'm not totally incompetent. Since this weekend, I've watched many clips. I've seen a lot of the race. I've read a lot of the news about what happened in the race. So I've seen most all of the highlights. I know basically what happened. I just say that because if I do leave out some small detail that you thought was really important, now you probably know why. But one detail that was certainly important, and was certainly the first thing I noticed when I checked in on the end of the race, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at long last gets his first career Cup victory. Oh my goodness, as happy as I am for Ricky Stenhouse, I'm probably more happy for Jack Roush. Because man, these last 3 or 4 years have just been rough for that team. Ever since Matt Kenseth, and really mainly ever since Carl Edwards left at the end of the 2014 season, that Roush Fenway has just not been as good as the other main teams of the sport. I mean, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. won championships in the Xfinity Series. He looked really good, came to the Cup Series and filled in for the 17 car, and it just didn't work. After David Reagan left, eventually they brought the 6 car back, and this time it was Trevor Bayne, the Daytona 500 winner from a few years ago, and that still hasn't worked out perfectly yet. And then they had aging Greg Biffle, who as great as he was 5-10 years ago, he had not been his same self the last couple of years, and now he's ultimately out of the series. Roush Fenway Racing, 10-12 years ago, had 5 cars on that team. And not just 5 cars, they had 5 cars in the chase one year. And now here they are, they're only a 2-car team, and let's face it, they're not really that good. But I did mention last week's episode when I was talking about drivers to watch out for that the Roush Fenway guys have shown a little bit more promise this season. We've consistently seen them running top 15 more often. I mean, and it was clear they had speed all weekend. Stenhouse, he won the pole, won the race, everything worked out for him this weekend. So anyway, Roush Fenway Racing hadn't won a race in 3 years almost, since I think Carl Edwards was probably the last guy to win a race for him before Stenhouse. And Jack Roush, everyone knows he's a great owner. Everyone loves Jack Roush in the garage area. It's really cool to see them get back to victory lane, and now it looks like most likely they're going to have a car in the chase. And some of you may slightly disagree with me, and I'm not even certain if I believe it 100% myself yet either. But whereas last year, when Chris Buescher got that win at Pocono and he made the chase, I kind of said it's a joke because we all know Chris Buescher is going to finish 16th and isn't going to be any factor at all. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., even though that team's kind of been like a 20th, 25th place team the last couple of years, this year, I don't think he's going to win the championship by any means, but I wouldn't give him a 0% chance of making it out of the first round. I said that really confusingly, but my point is, I actually think Ricky Stenhouse could potentially finish top 12 in points at the end of the season. It wouldn't be entirely that surprising. I feel like Trevor Bayne's run pretty equal to Stenhouse for most of this season. Obviously, he doesn't have a win, and if he doesn't get a win, chances are he probably won't make the chase, but it'll be interesting to see how this plays out down the stretch, because we got a couple big names that are currently on the outside of the chase at the moment that I think most people would probably expect to make some noise by the end of the regular season. I'm talking about Kenseth, Earnhardt Jr., Suarez even, I'd say Austin Dillon perhaps. Who else? I think Casey Kane is currently on the outside looking in. These are some guys that historically have been good and are on good teams, and although they're on the outside now, it wouldn't be entirely surprising if at least a couple of them snuck into the chase by the end of this thing. And I keep saying the chase, but is it even called the chase anymore, or is it just the playoffs? I don't actually know. I've thought about this a few times during the season. I don't really hear anyone talking about the chase anymore, but did they change it They're changing things all the time. I have no idea anymore. Whatever that silly playoff system is called, it wouldn't surprise me if the standings jumble themselves up quite a bit between now and the end of the summer. On to the other big thing to talk about was everyone messaging me all over the place like, oh, did you see that? Did you think it was crazy? What happened? The big one. Seems it took a while for it to really hit Talladega, but boy, did it storm when it got there. Coming off turn 2, a couple cars in the top 10. It was AJ Allmendinger pushing Chase Elliott. It looked like Chase Elliott kind of moved up the track a little bit. It looked like AJ Allmendinger, got into him in kind of an awkward spot. Turned him around. Both those cars ended up at least on their side. Allmendinger ended up flipped completely over. At least 15 or 20 cars or something like that were involved in the wreck. Took out a lot of big names late in the race. Ended a lot of people's hopes of winning. And while there's not a whole lot for me to talk about, I'm not going to really analyze the wreck because I basically just did. I told you what happened. You can watch the replay, determine for yourself what happened in the wreck. There's not a lot to analyze about it, but I do just kind of want to talk about Talladega and what makes Talladega unique and whether or not that's really a good thing or a bad thing. And now I know to some of you this could be sacrilegious for me to say anything negative about Talladega, one of the quintessential, historical, amazing, great NASCAR racetracks. But I've been watching the series for a long time now. I'd say I've been watching it for a long time, and I personally think Talladega is kind of a goofy track. I say goofy because I don't really know the right word to use, but it's not your typical racetrack, that's for sure. And you know, a lot of people love Talladega because it's big, it's fast, it's intimidating, there's a lot of challenges, there's chaos at any corner, and I like it for all those reasons too. But the one thing I really dislike about Talladega, and I know I'm not the only NASCAR fan that thinks this, is the fact that just too much of the results of the race are determined purely by luck. Purely by luck. And I know this is an old argument. This isn't a new argument by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I probably talked about this on Out of the Groove last year or something. But while restrictor plate tracks are entertaining, they're just not always fair. And I know what a lot of you are saying, racing's not fair, life isn't fair, and believe me, I completely understand that. But it can be hard to watch a race where really half the drivers in the field, their fates aren't determined by them at all. I mean, you look at the big one on Sunday. The only two drivers that did anything wrong in any capacity were, I guess, Chase Elliott and AJ Allmendinger. They're the only ones that did anything to cause the wreck. But 16 other drivers sustained significant damage. Many of them were out of the race at that point, hurt their points positions, hurt their finishing positions and all that. And like I said, they literally had nothing to do with it. They literally had no possible way of avoiding it, and they literally had no way of minimizing the damage that was going to come out of it. And so now this is purely opinion, but I've never been a big fan of that. Believe me, I like exciting racing. In Talladega, Daytona, they provide pretty good exciting racing for the most part. But I also do like it when drivers and teams are more in control of their own destiny. And the problem is that Talladega and Daytona, you really aren't. And that's why every year we spend about a week or so leading up to, the chase race at Talladega in October as being a wild card race where literally anything can happen, because literally anything can happen and it's pretty much all out of your control. And I guess if I'm going to put a little bow on this thesis here, is that we talk a lot about should any changes be made to the playoff schedule and so on and so on. If I could make any changes to the chase, I would probably switch out one of the mile-and-a-half racetracks with something more different. But more importantly, I would get Talladega the heck out of there. Because I think it's important, especially in the playoffs when people are running for the ultimate prize, the championship, I just think it's important that drivers consistently are in control of their own destiny. And I know that anything could go wrong at any track. I mean, you could be at Kansas and a guy just happens to blow a tire right in front of you and you wreck anyways and you're out of control, like you had no chance to avoid it. I get that that's the same thing. But the difference is at Talladega, every single lap, you are faced with that pressure or that possibility. Whereas at a place like Kansas or pretty much every other racetrack, you can go through most stages of the race without having to worry about what somebody else is going to do. And that's just me, and I think that's just me. I've always been a fan of rewarding consistency in racing. When NASCAR a few years ago made the chase and a lot of the point systems more about winning, I was kind of against it at first. Since then, I think they've made some better rules that I think have made it more fair, more equal, but I still like to reward consistency, and that's why I like the stage racing more than I think some people do, because in a way it does reward consistency. Drivers who consistently are up front and get stage wins, stage points, they deserve to get those points even if they get wrecked out by something ridiculous at the end of the race. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and that is my show. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for listening to me rant and ramble all for the last 10 or so minutes, however long this episode ends up being. We got Kansas this weekend. Is this the first Saturday night race of the year? I feel like it's the first Saturday night race of the season. Have we had a Saturday night race yet? I'm asking my producer. Hey, have we had a... No, I don't have a producer. Anyway, I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, this is the last race I have in this studio with my bed right here, my pillow. It's finals week for me too, so I should be studying instead of editing this and recording this. Wow, man, don't tell my parents. But yeah, anyway, there's Patreon, that's down below. There's my Twitter, which you can follow, all that fun stuff. W Cup Series Season 8 signups are this Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll upload a video to this channel. It will say W Cup Series signups. You can click on that video at that time and sign up. There's a whole video explaining the rules over on the side, or I'll put it in the link in the description as well. So you can, if you're interested in that, you can read the rules, I guess. But anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you guys for watching. As always, thanks for the support. Hope you guys have a great week. Summer's almost here. Goodbye.